want to talk about the July 4th celebration in Washington that many of you may have watched on television. Maybe some of you went to Washington or lived there and went to the July 4th celebration. As you likely know, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the July 4th celebration in Washington this year because President Trump took a more active role in planning the July 4th celebration in the nation's capital than supposedly have past presidents. Whether past presidents did or did not get more involved in the July 4th planning, I don't know. But I do know that the critics were made to look foolish by the way this event unfolded. I'll start with two points of criticism. One, there was talk even the day before the July 4th fireworks celebration about the White House was struggling to get crowds there, struggling because maybe thinking they had to pay people to come. I want to start by having Matt, the wonderful producer, show you one of the pictures. We have two pictures of the crowds. If you can even just put it full screen for just a moment. That was, and this is obviously the view toward the Lincoln Memorial, but then there's a second one I think we have in there. The whole point of it was this. The crowds were massive. Massive. And it was not a nice day. People stood in line for hours. It was rainy. And in fact, there were people urging President Trump to consider either delaying or canceling this July 4th celebration because after all, it was raining. He was not about to do that. He went ahead and did the July 4th celebration. So the first criticism was just kind of, oh, no one's going to want to go. This is so overdone. This is too much. The second one was far more, actually, I would call it nefarious or some other really bad word. But there is a law professor at Harvard, a pretty famous, allegedly bright law professor, Lawrence Tribe. He is among the true Trump haters, just everything President Trump does is wrong, bad, evil, etc. And Lawrence Tribe tweeted out about the plan President Trump had to bring to this July 4th memorial. Basically, he had tanks. He had symbols of our military strength. And so Tribe, law professor Tribe, tweeted out a picture of one of those things in the tanks arriving in Washington for Trump's, and Trump called it the salute to America. Lawrence Tribe said, the resemblance to days before Tiananmen Square is chilling. You have to understand, he's comparing America having a July 4th celebration, showing the world we're back. And there's a lot of significance what Trump was doing. We'll get to in a moment. He's comparing that to Tiananmen Square, where the Communist Party of China killed its own citizens because they dared to protest in demanding of free speech and more representational government. So, I mean, the absurdity of that comparison, I shouldn't even have to say anymore. So ridiculous. But the crowds did show up in Washington, and if any of you watched it, what you saw was President Trump basically celebrating our military, celebrating each branch of the military, having the music play for their particular branch of the military, honoring them, giving a little tribute to their history and founding, what they do, what they stand for. It was the most patriotic and very supportive of America's military July 4th celebration I can even ever recall, especially on that kind of national level. Just truly a wonderful honoring of America's military, which after all is the source of our ability to keep America free, to have a strong military able to fend off the wrongdoers in the world. So President Trump did a great job. There was no all the fear that he was going to use this like another campaign rally and go on and on about all his accomplishments, and it didn't happen. It was just upbeat, positive, pro-America being strong. And President Trump apparently, in response to some of the requests of why don't we just put this off? It's kind of ratty weather. Maybe people won't come. He said no way. So he showed up, and as did thousands and thousands. I don't know the crowd size, but I do know thousands and thousands were there, and all the people that were wringing their hands and fretting and moaning and worrying that somehow President Trump would be corrupting the July 4th, the meaning of July 4th. He was stellar, and he was basically celebrating the idea that America has freedom and continues to have freedom because over the centuries, America's military has been willing to put in the fighting, the presence at foreign countries, just the willingness of our military to stand up for America. In fact, one comment I guess President Trump made afterwards, maybe he said he thought maybe this really upbeat honoring of the military might actually cause more people, more young men, and I guess women, to consider joining the military. So very, very positive, very upbeat. Critics looked, just their typical silly, petty selves. And anyway, it's just a great day to celebrate America. And I wanted to close out our honoring of the July 4th by saying that I'm just really grateful we have a president who's actually proud of America, who actually speaks up for America, speaks happily and just gratefully about America.